Welcome to the Super Sentai Power Hour podcast. Once again, we have Anthony, who you
Hello.
can't see right now, unfortunately, because of weird connection issues, I guess, and Jay. And Gino will be joining us somewhere in the near future. So, today's topic, villains. I have been sitting on this for a little while because I wasn't really sure how we would do it. Oh, there he is again. He's back.
Oh, I'm back on.
Yeah,
Great.
indeed.
Yay.
All right. So anyway, I was sitting on this topic for a little while because I wasn't really sure how we would do it. But now that I have my mind made up, and we got enough people to do the subject justice, I figured we'd steamroll right on ahead. So now, and you're gone again.
He's still here. Fine. I know it's.
Well, I mean the video.
No, I know. I'm saying his video is still here on mine.
Well,
That's not the hugest issue.
It must be my connection, but anyway. So I figured what way better to do this subject justice, and hopefully Gino can put his opinion into the ring when he gets here, if he gets here early enough, is what makes a good villain? What makes, say, Diabolico better than, say, Rancic?
There are a lot of different villains over the years, not just in Power Rangers, but in media in general. You know, throughout DC Comics, you have the Master of Metropolis, the Guardian of Fear, a man who laughs. You know, there are so many ways to do a villain. What makes a good villain is up to the viewer, I think. But personally, my idea of a good villain is someone who's cold, calculating, willing to. They're basically the total opposite of what a hero should be. You know, a hero should be someone who helps someone else, no matter what, always is ethical and everything. Whereas the villain goes away those ethics and puts as like the second priority. Like, they need to accomplish their goal. What is their goal? It can range from many things: simply taking over the world, trying to take over a different species, annihilation of someone else, just one person in general, just to get them out of their head forever. Someone who comes to mind as a great villain. Actually, there are a few people that come to mind in the Power Rangers franchise. So, number one definitely will always be, for me, Astronema. This was a woman, especially towards the tail end in space, cybernetic implants. It was when she was in full-on mode. She didn't care that she was draining Dark Spectre's power with the Rangers draining it. She just wanted to be the head honcho, the one in charge, and stuff like that. She was willing to step on anybody's foot to get to the top. Someone else who I think is really villain.
Astronema was almost the perfect villain, especially for the series. I mean, we went over In Space last episode, so if you want more information on In Space, definitely go watch that. It's actually uploading right now. So hopefully by the time this is done recording, you'll be able to see that. But
another
anyway.
Complex villain that I really like is from Time Force. Here's a guy who was basically born as an accident. You know, perfect DNA this in the future. Everyone could create a baby whatever they wanted to, and through one accident, a mutant is born. And he's rejected by a lot of people because of how different he is. He looks scary. It doesn't help that he comes across a kind one, but he's not a nice guy. So, and of course, according to his backstory episode at the end, Jen does mention people tried to help him, but he turned them away. He just thought of humans as his enemy and thought that he wants to get back at them and bring everybody together. It's almost like Magneto, except Magneto is a sympathetic villain. Rancic, not so much. But even so, he's just so motivated by his
Yeah,
hatred and prejudice of humans, and that makes him really interesting. It's not just he wants world conquest; he just wants a peaceful world for mutants and stuff like that. So
Yeah, and
which
and also
runs
the
alone,
to
you know.
yeah, and also the to mention Rancic was obviously a U.S. specific villain. Rancic wasn't the main villain in Time Ranger. Time Ranger,
yes,
it
it
was
was
the
Ludo's counterpart. I thought was very strange.
yeah. Time Ranger was what was it? The Londar's family.
Yes, the
I
Londar's family and Don Dolinero, aka Gluto, was the head guy in charge.
I don't know the counterpart as well.
It's all good, man.
Yeah, don't worry about it. So Jay, what makes a good villain in your opinion?
Well, I love I always love the villains that are so, like you were saying, like you're saying that when when a villain's cold, and like but there's often I find often that I prefer, even though like my favorite kind of villains are the really articulate, smart, like I planned this out and what a crazy plan to come to fruition. I love those, but even more so, I love the villain that doesn't care about anything or anyone. The guy who will go through his own henchmen without thinking about it. Like if I know like a lot of villains that like progress. Like if you look at what's his name, Bashir.
Banshira?
Oh, Banshira from
Banshira in Lightspeed Rescue. Towards the end, just flips the script and is like, "Fuck you, fuck you," and just like doesn't care anymore, and is like, "Whatever, done with you, done. And then to where it gets like Diabolical turns on her, is like, "Oh crap," because she kills off Loki and all that.
Rightfully so, by the way, him turning on her.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. That was because I wasn't a huge fan of her as a main villain, because to me this was the first time. It's the first time they took a face away from the main villain. Well, not in the Cog Army didn't really have a face. It was like one of those plastered on faces. But before that, you had like Rita, you saw her face. Like Divatox, you saw her face. A strong saw you. So we got the emotion, and all these things from these villains.
Another great villain got her face as well.
Yeah, exactly. Trakina, like, you see the face. And here they took the face away. And that I didn't really like so much, but I feel like they made up for it with the aesthetic of every villains in Lightspeed that like just are so top aesthetic that it's almost overwhelming. If you look at like Olympius, Diabolico, and Loki, like just the three of them together, you're like, this is insane, But the fact that she just went off at the end and was like, nope. I love that. That's one of my favorite things.
And also, obviously I'm biased because Lightspeed is my favorite series, but so with that bias in mind, I really like the way what's his face, the guy who turned into a bat.
What?
The guy who made all the monsters.
Oh, the Finster of the series, Jinxer.
Yeah, Jinxer. I really like how he made villains by throwing the cards into the fire. That was really cool.
If memory serves me correctly, I believe his name in Go-Go 5 was Pierre, which I find hilarious.
Yeah, that was one thing. I'm just like, Pierre? Yeah.
Oh, you think that's funny? The O-Ranger villains, the Baranoia Empire, aka the Machine Empire's counterparts, all of their names, if you really think about it, they're all named after dogs. Bakasund is Bacchus Hound. Hysteria, his terrier. Bulldog, bulldog, and so on and so forth. And it's just hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good,
but,
actually.
Now, when it comes to my whole vision of villains, to be completely honest, that's not really a topic I've really thought about much. I like a lot of the villains throughout Power Rangers, but when it comes to, well, this is something we'll get to later. Who was the best villain and who's the most evil and all of that. We'll get into that later. But when it comes to what makes a good villain, especially when it comes to Power Rangers, I really think a good villain in Power Rangers, they need to kind of know their way around the field, as it were, know their enemy.
A lot of the villains, because of the beginning of most. I think if I don't know all of them, but I know most of the ones I've seen are aware of the existence of the Power Rangers prior to those Rangers becoming Rangers. You know, like, when it was like, oh, when Zordon turned the Rangers, we'd already know, oh, the Power Rangers, like, crap, there's Power Rangers, by the time they got in space, like, we talked about last time, like, what happened to, Andro's team, there already were Power Rangers, he was there already. These are powers are already given, so, like, all the villains, most of the villains should at least, be like, oh, crap, here we go again, rather than seeming like this is some new thing they have to try and fight off.
Yeah, and I just want to do a shout out to a Power Rangers a Power Rangers series that I thought is very underrated, Jungle Theory.
I do agree with you. Jungle Fury is underrated.
Their villains were pretty good. I don't remember their names at the moment, but
I can help you out with that. So the main guy behind the
Daishi,
whole
right?
For yes, Daishi, and he was a human called Jared, who, while he was primarily good, he had a dark side to him, and Daishi exploited that, possessed him, and took over his light spirit and such. And his right-hand woman was Camille, and she had a thing for Daishi / It's not very clear until the end, like, who she's more into, like, whether it's Daishi or Jared, but like, towards the end, we find out it's Jared she sympathized with, and she realizes Daishi doesn't care about her. He's another one of those villains who would definitely use her as a meat shield if he had the opportunity. And I'm pretty sure he did that at one point in the show.
I don't know that. So I don't know that that season, unfortunately, but I remember online. I remember online seeing that someone saying it was his name, Daishi was like one of the best villains apparently that the show had seen. But I don't know. I like a lot of for me, my favorite part of one of the only parts I really loved about Turbo is Divatox. Like, I know she's ridiculous, but I love her. She was my favorite villains. I thought she was the perfect amount of funny, and it was
more power to you, man.
Yeah. A lot of people care. It was when it came to Power Rangers still being campy and still being funny, because as the show goes on, they cut out a lot of that. You know what I mean? Like, in Lightspeed, there's rarely any humor in the villains, with the exception of just the side, like the Fister characters and all that stuff.
Yeah, fair enough. For humor, you got to go more to the Rangers side. So
yeah, exactly. But back then, hilarious. She's absolutely hilarious. But she was one of my favorite parts of Turbo, and apparently that's the case with Daishi, is that he's like some villain, compared to other seasons or something.
Yeah, in my mind, Daishi, while I do think I agree with Trevor that Jungle Fury is definitely underrated, I don't think the strength lies in villain. Personally, I think the strengths that come for Jungle Fury are not only the character development with the Rangers themselves, as well as like a new kind of mentor. RJ, I think, is friggin' great as a mentor. Like, he doesn't seem like the knowledgeable type and everything, but that works to his advantage when he's fighting his enemies and stuff. And he's more zen. He's more of a relaxed kind of guy and stuff like that. And like take it one step at a time, sort of thing. But as far as the villains go, I think Daishi's kind of generic. I mean, he just wants to destroy everything. But he is powerful. I will say that much. Like, he definitely is smart. He definitely is calculating. He has a method to his madness. That is what makes him a little bit better of a villain, especially when you compare, like, so Jungle Fury falls into not only the Disney era, but it falls into what's called the Kalish era of seasons. So Bruce Kalish was the producer for 4 seasons in a row on Power Rangers. It was SPD, Mystic Force, Operation Overdrive, and Jungle Fury that he did. And that was the last one that he was producer of. And when you consider the Kalish era, like, a lot of people's opinions become either mixed or like just downright loathed. Like, a lot of people love SPD, but not many people love Mystic Force or Operation Overdrive.
A lot of people like SPD.
Yeah, and Jungle Fury, I know people who love it, and I know people who freaking hate it and say it's like their least favorite season. And I'm like, what are you guys seeing that I'm not? Like, I think it's great. I think most of the time it's honestly Super Sentai purists who just love Geki Ranger so much, and they just accept Jungle Fury for that reason. That's just my opinion, though.
Yeah, when it comes to Geki Ranger, I've only seen like 2 or 3 episodes. I really need to watch that season throughout. From what I saw, it was pretty good. But we'll get the Geki Ranger another time. But another season with really good villains, but more modern, from what I remember anyway, was Dino Charge with Slade and Jekyll and Hyde. Snide,
yes. Snide.
As I said in the Neo Saban episode, I haven't actually seen Supercharge, but I've seen Dino Charge. So I've seen the first part, haven't seen the second part. So I don't know that much about Snide, but I really liked Slade. I liked his design. I liked his whoever his voice actor was. I thought he did a really good job. I thought he was a really good villain as a villain. So,
we talking about Snide or Sledge here?
Sledge. I thought his name was Slade for some reason.
I think he's mixing up Teen Titans right now.
Yes. Sledge.
Good.
That's who I'm talking about. I really liked Sledge.
I agree. I thought Sledge was decent. I think Dino Charge, I've mentioned this in a previous episode, it's like the diamond of the rough of the Neo Saban era, in my opinion. Not a big fan of Samurai, not a big fan of Megaforce, and Ninja Steel is just average to me. I'm not a huge fan of most of those seasons. And Dino Charge, though, is like above average. I'll give it that. It's definitely decent. But it has a lot of the same annoying tropes that a lot of the Neo Saban era shows have. Meaning, into the whole ranging a pun every 2 seconds when they're fight. Or having catchphrases when they destroy a monster. Some are good, some are not. And other characters fall into, tropes you've seen a few times before. Like, all right, that one's the science nerd. That one's the cool dude. That one's the plucky upcomer, like, spunky leader and everything. It's like, we've seen these tropes before, and at the time, not special to me.
No, especially when as time progressed, if you people watched the show, I said again, I don't know how it continues later on, but seeing through Lightspeed Rescue and all that, the villains, they hold back less. Like if you look in in the very first, if you look in Mighty Morphin, you've got Goldar, big Goldar, shaking a building, shaking a building. if you look at the end of Lost Galaxy, all those B dudes, they go in a building,
Stingwingers.
they blow it up. They blow it up completely. If you look at
suicide bombers. Imagine Lost Galaxy trying to get away with that in a post 9/11 world.
Suicide bombers, all of them suicide bombers. They swarmed under the Zords like it was, they covered a building, blew it up, the whole building was gone. And I'm like, guys, that's so many people dead. That whole building blew up. They had the Lightspeed Rescue, and they open up the sky and just start zapping. Buildings just destroyed immediately. I'm like, it's not like Goldberg stomping in, shaking buildings like, I'm here, I'm going to mess things up. They just, boom, kill everyone right off the bat. And when that stuff happens, any Ranger to make any joke at all during battle, I'm like, guys, you realize there's mass murder going on, right? Like, there's mass murder. You guys are over here punning it out.
I believe it was the second episode of Samurai where a building does get blown up. And Mike makes the joke of, hope that building was insured. I'm like, shut up.
Why, like, what are people inside?
Yeah, to be fair. And Power Rangers has been just a long-ass time. But, most of the time when they are fighting a villain in a city area, they try to say it's the warehouse district or the building was abandoned and stuff like that, because they don't want little kids in America to know that, people are dying and stuff like that. We're not thick-skinned like Japan is.
Right? I thought it was hilarious, by the way, the warehouse district existed all the way through the Zordon era and was the same exact district. Like if you notice, it's the same warehouse, and they're running out of the same garage door like so many times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're like, here's where In Space met the Ninja Turtles, and then here's where Ace, met up with Lost Galaxy, and here's where, it's the same exact building.
Oh yeah.
This is where Bulk and Skull got turned into chimps. It's the same building.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when it comes to get back on track, so to get back on topic, another thing that I really think is important when it comes to a good villain is just like what makes a good Red Ranger. They gotta be the main villain has to be a good leader. They have to have some sort of commanding presence.
Yeah,
I agree. That's why I found Diabolico to be a better villain than Banshira or, say, Olympius. He actually, while he was bad to the bone, definitely, he was, you just look at him and you just think, when you compare him to guys like Vipra, Lokai, and Banshira or Olympius, who's the main one in charge? Diabolico definitely fits the bill, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And heck, even when Impus grows into Olympius and he's like more strong and everything like that, Viper and Lokai, they stay loyal to Diabolico, because it's like, okay, you went through your super puberty and you're really strong and stuff like that, but you're a dick to us. Why the hell would we follow you? Diabolico, while he's bad and everything, he's never, done anything wrong by us and stuff like that. He's fair and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and he is smart. They called him out. I remember they called out Impus, or they called him out right away. They're like, dude, look how powerful you are. You don't know what you're doing. It was like right away. They were like, yeah, we don't get we've been doing this for a long time. Like, we know how to fight the Rangers. You are dumb. That was great. I loved that, because leading up to it, they made you believe that, once he grew, you were like, oh, look how powerful. He's about to take over. And then they're like, nah, bro. We've been doing this. We've been doing this a while. You got to calm down.
Yeah. As much as a fan as I am of Speed Rescue, because I remember being in kindergarten when that show came out and everything like that. I'm showing my age again. but as much as I love a lot of aspects of Lightspeed Rescue, there are a lot of good things, but there are some weaker elements, and unfortunately, and this is where Trevor is probably going to disagree with me on, I think personally, of its weaker aspects was the villain cast. Oh, Gino's on.
Indeed.
Hey, what's up?
What's going on? I agree, kind of.
Like, okay, let me clarify. So,
Yeah.
when I say the villains are like kind of the weaker aspect, I'm exempting Diabolico and Olympius from this. Like, it's mainly Ben Shira, Vipra, and Lokai. There's not a lot of personality to them, and they're just there, kind of.
Yeah,
So,
that's what someone's biggest issue with Dan Show was the fact that they took personality away from this main villain. Up to this point, we had what was it, 3 in a row? Fantastic female villain actresses. Like my only issue with Trakina at all had nothing to do with her. I don't know if it was a budget decision or what was going on. But if you notice, in Lights of Orion, we see that amazing armor that she has. Like she straight up goes, "Oh, this armor," and it's almost like something out of Mortal Kombat, like a Devora costume. It's incredible. And then you don't see anything like that again until she transforms at the end into the crazy big bug.
oh yeah, like it kind of did look like the same friggin' armor, but just it covered up her face more this time.
And but when they first saw it in Lights of Orion, I was like, "That's amazing." Or was it Lost Galaxy? I was like, "That's amazing." And and then I never saw it again. You never saw it again. She just that sopping wet bug at the end. And that was really disappointing.
Lost Galaxy, I'm pretty sure, was still the most expensive series of Power Rangers to shoot ever, like because they used very little stock footage and stuff like that. So it must have been a budget thing and stuff like that.
I was so blue balled from that point, because like the moment that happened, I went, "That's so cool," and like cooler than any armor I've seen on like the villain just walking around. In later episodes, she ends up in battle and never brings it back. Like never brings back the armor. And I'm like, okay, guys. So
yeah, even I'll admit that was a little bit weird to witness that as a kid. She never sees that, and then when she transforms it from the cocoon and stuff like that, I'm like, that looks like the same outfit she wore
just like
at the beginning for one flicker of a second in that one episode.
Yeah, it was for that reason I was like super disappointed because watching throughout the whole series, I was just waiting for it to come back and waiting for it to come back because I stood up the first time I saw it. I was like, "Whoa!" Like that's so cool. Especially given it wasn't just really sweet. Like the design elements were, like I said, were more like that of Mortal Kombat. It looked like nothing I've ever seen on the show. Like no one's ever had that.
Fair enough.
So it was a little bit.
So Gino, since you're just getting on and stuff like that, why don't we pick your brain a little bit on the topics we've discussed? So, in your mind, what makes a good villain to you?
Take your time.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I think be something like
maybe make it easier.
is like tragic, I would say.
Oh, the tragedy aspect.
Tragic backstory.
Oh, like what? Like the storyline of what makes them a villain?
Yeah, like something maybe
Like
something that happened
with that
in their past, or
So then,
like
you're partial towards villains like Rancic, then.
That's what I was just gonna bring up. So we were just talking like that with Rancic.
Yeah. And even like if you go back like with if you want to talk about Power Rangers, like the earliest seasons, they took away like what Rita, there was a lot of backstory to her and they took away all of it.
Yeah.
Like didn't she lose her kid?
Oh,
originally?
Yeah, like in Zyuranger, yes. When you compare it to Bandora, yes.
They took away all that from it.
Yeah, for sure. Like, Rita was just a villain who was just evil for the sake of being evil. There really wasn't much to Rita, unfortunately. When you compare it to her counterpart, Bandora. So, Jay, I'm assuming that you haven't seen much of Zyuranger at all.
No.
So I'm going to fill you in on Bondora's backstory. So when we first meet her, she is a witch, and she's trying to get revenge on the Earth, who sealed her away on planet Nemesis millions of years ago. Now, the thing is, we find out towards the end of the show that she was actually either a queen or a princess in prehistoric times and stuff like that. Her son Kai was killed by a dinosaur because he was a dick and liked to bust open dinosaur eggs for fun. So she makes a deal with this giant floating head called Great Satan or Dai Satan to basically get revenge on the dinosaurs. This is what wipes out the dinosaurs and stuff like that, except for the guardian beasts, which are the Zords of the
Really cool. That's really cool. They explain these things to the dinosaurs via that character.
Yeah.
I love when stories do that. I love when stories do that. When they explain history via like their storyline, like, oh, and by the way, this is what I love that so much. That's cool.
They kind of jumped right into it. Like they could have did that, but they just kind of jumped right into it, so they didn't explain it. Like for us, all we know that could have happened, but they don't tell us. So in Power Rangers.
Yeah, and to make it clear too, Dai Satan, they actually did end up using him in Mighty Morphin. He's actually Lokar in season 1 of Mighty Morphin.
Oh, okay.
And what'd you call it? Oh, is someone else joining? I think Brandon.
Here we go. We got the full house.
You made it, buddy. How are you?
I'm alive. 5 Rangers.
But that's another reason why I like Astronomer. I love her character.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we were talking about Astronomer.
It's such a there's such a building block to her.
One of the first Power Ranger figures I remember getting was Lost Galaxy Pink, which is Astronomer after becoming good.
Oh,
yeah. You can argue that it's Valerie too. So it's really
you could argue it's Kendricks. I always thought it was Kendricks.
It all depends on, I guess like they didn't have the flipping head version of that, so you get no face. Yeah,
the flipping heads did go away for a long time.
Yeah.
All right, so Brandon, now that you're
didn't they bring them back for something like Wild Force or something? Didn't they bring the flipping heads back?
Wild Force and Wild Force Samurai in the 2017 movie.
All right, Brandon.
So Brandon,
now that you're
why don't
on,
you tell us?
Now that you're on, we were talking about what makes a good villain.
Honestly, my opinion is ones that aren't just out to take over the world. Something more interesting like Messigog, how he wanted to convert Earth back to prehistoric times, or even villains with more like an honor and a moral code. Like
that's what I was talking about with that tragic, and that's what I kind of hinted at with villains, because when they're just taking over the world, it's kind of like very
one-dimensional.
Yep. It's funny. I was telling him earlier how I much prefer I much prefer one or the other of the extremes. Like either someone who's very articulated and planned out, towards like, look, you guys had never a chance of defeating me, or someone who does not give a crap no matter what. They're killing their own guys. They're killing every guy. Like they're just heartless. They're like, I'm just bad, bro. Like
that's why I like Lord Zed, because Lord Zed was like he was like very like he came in. He does one of my favorite scenes in probably all of Power Rangers was when he goes to the command center. He teleports into the command center.
Alpha, you can come out now.
It's just so amazing. It's just so amazing. Like and then when he makes fun of Tommy, he's like, "Where's those hayas?" He's like,
yeah. That's the only time we ever see him actually fight a Ranger. That was interesting. Zed was kind of a roller coaster for a villain for me. Like when we first see him, he was awesome. He was scary. He was like
so cool.
Yeah, he was so badass. And then they toned him down a little bit to make him less scary. He did accomplish, getting the Green Ranger powers, but then he started making puns and, we'll get them next time, and blaming his henchmen for his defeats and stuff like that, much like Rita did. And then Rita really got married to him. And that's when Zed really started to get interesting again. He was a lot more powerful. He had like those great plans, like friggin' infiltrating the command center, fighting Tommy one-on-one and stuff like that. he started to get better again. I mean, he still was silly a lot of the times, especially when Vile finally leaves his castle and stuff like that. Like, yes, I never thought I would be happy to see the goody goods win, but Golda, I am very happy indeed. Mwah!
Yeah, he was.
Also,
He
remember,
definitely got a little more ridiculous once they got married, but
reminder that Rita Repulsa drugged towards Zed into getting it. She drugged towards Zed to make her marry her. So,
Right, of course, no, love potion and all.
Yeah.
also disturbing when you think about it.
And then he wanted a baby, which eventually happens in Power Rangers. Like, and she was like freaking out about it, and it eventually comes to pass.
yeah.
Yeah, how the hell is Thrax that old when we see him in Once a Ranger? I demand an explanation, unless this is just him in his teenage rebellious phase or something. Because
I don't know.
youngest, that kid can only be 13 years old.
Unless it's like a time traveling type of thing or
Another
something.
dimension.
Now,
It could be another dimension. For all we know, it could be.
Oh, because when they went to Master Vile, maybe the dimension, it's like the time works differently and stuff.
It could be the case. I wish we had gotten that explanation. Another villain that comes to mind as someone who is very good and falls into the cold and calculating, always prepared for everything sort of aspect has got to be the Vengix virus from RPM.
I love.
I have not seen that series in a long time. I've seen RPM all the way through. It's just been a shit ton of time.
I love
I have to go watch.
Here's a theory I've always had was General Vengix, the Machine Empire General from Wild Force, after being
From the
destroyed.
Forever Red, yes.
Maybe his consciousness became part of the Vengix virus.
That's a pretty interesting theory, although it is unfortunately not canon. I would like to think that somehow he ended up becoming that thing. It's just, unfortunately, behind the scenes, it's just a coincidence that 7 years later they used the same name.
Then Vengix will return as Evox.
In Beast Morphers, yes, which we finally got the... so for those of you who haven't seen... Sorry, spoiler territory here, especially for you, Trevor. I'm very sorry.
I don't care.
At the end of RPM, when they do destroy Vengix, it seems all is well and everything, but then we see a red glowing light, just like the Vengix virus light, on one of the RPM morphers. And it's like, oh my god, he's still there, so there could be a sequel, or like... A lot of fans were pissed with that ending that we never got proper closure. And then Beast Morphers came along and decided, hey, we're going to use some really good continuity here. And Evox, this coincidentally very similar virus, he's actually the same virus from a few seasons ago and stuff. And basically Evox is a powered up version of the Vengix virus. And fans of RPM finally got their closure.
These villains are viruses that have been given in our physical form.
What was that, Jay?
This villain is a virus that's given a physical form.
Oh yeah, like he would a lot of times Vengix, when in RPM, whenever he would actually join the fight, he would download himself into a robotic body and he would face the Rangers one-on-one.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
And RPM is definitely, like, when you talk about the best seasons of all time, or like best seasons of the Disney era, the RPM is definitely on a lot of people's top list, because it's one of those series that it shouldn't have worked, because the counterpart for RPM, Go Onger, is a lot more comedic and silly, and it's an attempt to get Japanese kids to recycle and stuff like that. And this guy, who they got to produce it, made it basically Terminator or Mad Max with Power Rangers in it and stuff like that. It's a post-apocalyptic world about how this virus basically took over the whole friggin' world. All that's left for humanity is the domed city of Corinth, which is where the last species, like the last bit of humanity really exists, where there's proper atmosphere to breathe and stuff like that, different weather conditions and stuff like that. Everywhere else in the world, it's a desolate wasteland. And when you just watch the first episode, it's like you don't feel like you're watching Power Rangers. You really feel like you're watching a Cool Kids TV show.
Wasn't that the return of Judd Lin as a writer producer of the show?
I believe it was. I think it was. Yes.
That's that was part of why I wanted to go back and watch it, because Judd Lin, he's responsible for all the best stuff from most of the best stuff from the Zordon era and a little bit after that, you know. That's always something I paid attention to, and then he wasn't on the show anymore. And then seeing all this stuff always about RPM being like so good, I went and looked at it. I was like, what makes it so great? And then it literally, like, that was the thing that I thought, I was like, tell me that's Judd Lin back on the show, because that's great if he, you know. So that was one of the main reasons that I wanted to check that out again, because I went through all that.
When it comes to Go Onger, I watched it all the way through when I first got into Sentai. So I have a bootleg DVD. Again, I don't remember too much of it because it was a while ago. But the one thing I remember about Go Onger is the talking cars and the talking vehicles. And
oh yes, that's right. Their swords didn't talk in RPM, but in Go Onger they definitely did.
Yeah.
Zords it's more because in Super Sentai we get sentient Zords more, or sentient Robos more often when Zords and Power Rangers are just messed up.
Yeah, it was a little strange to me when I first watched the Lost from this Galaxy, when they first were like, these Zords are something that turned into, you know, when these Zords are like ancient beings that became Zords. I know that when they refer to them, still like the original Megazord, they're still talking about them like they're the ancient, powerful Zords. But in the Galaxy, the first time that they were like actually like animals that then just changed into a Zord rather than being a Zord, you know, already a Zord.
And before we move on to a different subtopic within the topic, another really good villain I really liked was Wild Force, the Orgs, because they're they're the Wild Force Rangers are all about promoting life in all its forms and everything, and the Orgs are like anti-life.
Say Orgs?
Orgs. O-R-G-S.
Yeah, Orgs. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. Are those? Was that what the were those like the putty characters, or was that like on? Or was it?
Oh no, that was just the species of the enemies of that series. The foot soldiers were the foot soldiers for Wild Force. They were called putrids.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was a foot soldier thing or if it was like the Cog Army, where they're just called the Cogs. You know?
Yeah.
No, it's like so Machine Empire Orgs. Think of it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked Master Org. I thought his design, again, he was another villain design that I really liked. And
and he was 100% American.
Oh yeah, I know. And I just love the Orgs as it is. I love oh crap. We've been doing so much with the Gal Ranger counterparts that I can't remember their Wild Force names anymore.
So the Wild Force villains, we have Master Org leading everybody. We have Generals, Duke Orgs first we'll discuss. That's Toxica and Jindrax.
There we go, Toxica and Jindrax. I really like
then you have generals like Retnax, Mandalok, and Nazor.
I always appreciate the fact that they take like regular words and make them into a bad guy name. You know, like you know, you got like the Diabolico, Clipcore, you know, like some of Roberto. Like they just, you know, like they'll just take a word and be like, what was this guy's power, or what's this guy that, you know?
That's almost like an Jay, like in Beetleborgs, like Horrible.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, this one, he's so vile. Oh, we'll name him Vilor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's that's another thing like, with Forever Red, that when the Machine Empire supposedly came back with the Beetleborgs suits and everything, I thought I thought those villains were really cool too.
Yeah, mainly because of how they were designed and stuff like that. They just figured, hey, we need villains that are a part of the Machine Empire. Hey, those Beetleborg suits look cybernetic enough. They look like robots. Let's use them and just call them lost generals of Machine Empire. Let's take away Dragonborg's antenna. Let's put Fireborg's head on Lightningborg's body, and Ladyborg, now you're going to be using 2 pulse sabers as your weapons. Shadowborg, we're going to name you General Venjix. We won't give you any special weapons, even though you have a claw right here on your arm. And everybody else is going to use weapons that no other Beetleborg, except for Green. Green still used the Hunter Claw for his weapon. Everyone else just used different weapons that Blue Stingerborg used. It was pretty cool.
And then there was Serpentera.
Serpentera.
Holy crap, Serpentera. Like, I know, Anthony, you were talking about Serpentera in the last episode about how he only appears a certain amount of times in Die Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
So, Forever Red was the only time I ever saw Serpentera before I saw Die Ranger, and that design is just...
Yeah, it is pretty cool looking.
Supposedly, when the episode was in production, they accidentally animated it to Serpentera to be purple, and they had to go back to green.
Okay.
I don't know how you messed up that
All right.
bad.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
So now let's go around the table, as it were, and I'll start with our favorite villains. As I said, I'll start, and obviously, since I'm partial towards Lightspeed, you would think I'd probably say Diabolico, but when it comes to just as a villain, I'm actually really torn between Diabolico and Master Org from Wild Force. They're like really neck and neck for me. I like Diabolico because he's, as I said, I really like a commanding presence in a villain, and he definitely had that. And I really like Master Org just because, as I said, I really liked his design, and I thought the orgs in general were just really cool. A lot of the villain designs for Gal Ranger / Wild Force were really cool.
I think Master Org had a nice backstory as well, too.
Oh, definitely. So, Anthony, who's your favorite villain?
So, for my favorite villains, my top 3 is, third place is Trakina from Lost Galaxy, second is Ransik from Time Force, and number 1 is Astronema from In Space, just because no other villain, unlike her, was actually, maybe except for the Venjix virus, but, for me, there was no other Power Rangers villain that was able to unite all of these friggin' armies from the past seasons. No one was able to take over so many worlds. I mean, it's established in a lot of seasons when they first begin. It's like, oh no, he's come to Earth and he's, conquered all these planets and this and that. But we never really see that. And when we see them, mess up so many times, it's like, how are these people conquerors? They don't seem like the conquering type. Astronema, definitely. Holy crap. And again, like I said last episode, she has an amazing backstory. The fact that she was raised good, kidnapped by evil, raised to be evil, thinking that the good guys were bad guys, and then when she finds out the truth of her, she's conflicted on where she wants to go, she tries to be good, then fate is just like, nope, you're bad again, and she's full-on evil, taking over Earth, Aquitar, Triforia, and stuff like that, through all these different forces and stuff like that. Basically dividing and conquering. For me, it doesn't get much better than Astronema.
You saying she's bipolar? No,
That's what Justin said about his silver, when he was silver psycho. He goes, "I'm bipolar."
Astronema also did a lot. Was able to pull off a lot of those moves under the false pretense that she was still working for Dark Spectre.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's still like, I feel like she wouldn't have been able to have that pull had she not been like, this is straight from Dark Spectre, guys, and he thinks I'm going to put him over, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Which is also brilliant in her part. But
So who wants to go next?
I mean, I was just going by the order of the screens on my screen. So I'm first, you were second, and Jay is next. So
I have to say, I think my favorite team of villains, because I always look at the team on the show, you know, rather than like the villain itself.
the individual, yeah.
But the villains in Lost Galaxy were such a great just combination of villains to me. When it came to their all around aesthetic, and because very often I have to, it happened with the Rangers first, is I have to separate my personal opinion of the aesthetic of the Ranger to try and, you know, because to try and like it. Because when they put the star on Zio's face, I went, what? You know, and like, so you have to get past certain aesthetic, you know, if you want to, you know, I didn't like what the Master Cog guy in the Cog Army looked like. I didn't like it. And so it took a while for me to get past the, if you look cool, you're a good villain. That's not the case, you know. So many, you know, like if you look at Rito, he's ridiculous, but he looked amazing. You know, he's such a cool aesthetic on a ridiculous man. So I think when it comes to all around, you know, like between what were the names? Like Devia and Villainax and the Trachino and all that. Like
I put Fury on my list.
Like they're just, that team is my favorite.
Yeah,
That team is my
I gotta agree with you on a lot of that, Jay. The villain team in Lost Galaxy was really good, and my favorite appearance of Trachina isn't even actually from Lost Galaxy. It's from the Lightspeed team up episode.
Lightspeed. Yeah, and at the end, Trachina's Revenge. Yeah.
We'll have to do a whole episode on team up episodes, but that just adds a lot more to why Lightspeed is my favorite. That team up was almost perfect.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people actually don't like that team up, believe it or not. It's actually considered one of the weaker ones in a few people's eyes. I mean,
I was
I
thinking
like
that.
it
I was
fine.
thinking that.
I've seen a lot of hate.
I don't know what the hell those people are talking about. I mean,
they were good episodes. They were good episodes. But yeah, that's my favorite team, I think. And then when it comes to the villains, like the villains themselves, it's real tough because, like we were talking about earlier, when Lord Zed first appeared, I was like, this is the coolest guy. I was like, this guy's aesthetic is cooler than anything I've seen on the show so far.
His aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
He was like glowing.
Yeah, it was
That's
great.
how powerful he was.
He had that, he had that voice and his face is like,
when he
that, like, you know,
when he created those more powerful putties that the Rangers had to fight, that was really
More
nice.
powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah, they have a big ass bullseye on their chest.
So yeah, okay, yeah. These are the this is the difference here. We got, because that's exactly what he did, and you're right, because initially these were the putties, you know, these were the putties that existed prior, and that's what Rita made, and that Finster made by putting them all in clay, and that. And Lord Zed came out with these guys. The problem with these guys is the moment you hit their chest.
Oh my god, the action
pop
figure
it.
actually does that? That is so cool.
Yeah, that's One
the
from,
mummy
like,
hit the chest, they boom, exploded. So it was really a flawed design, on Zed's part. But
I can
Well,
remember
that's
an
why I like the
episode where
super
Tommy
punch.
just took one finger, hit the
Yeah,
freaking chest.
exactly.
It's like, wow.
but
Well, that's the thing though about
what
it
if the
that no
putty
one
accent
really thinks
touches
about,
in
Jay,
chest?
is the fact that this is what I talked about when I remember when 2017's movie was first coming out. People were like, why are they jumping up in the air and they like without being morphed and something? I'm like, you guys don't realize the Rangers was super powered. The power actually was part of them. And
Yeah.
they had more powerful than a normal human.
Yeah,
So,
that's
say a normal human couldn't do what they could do it by hitting the Z.
yeah,
Oh, I
that's
mean, yeah,
that's the thing.
And no one ever thought about that. And I was like saying that. I'm like that because remember when they used to make jokes with like Bulk and Skull would like hit the putty or something like that, and they would start running away because they would hurt themselves.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, Bulk and Skull are far from,
I'm just saying in
athletes like the
general.
rest
Not
of the
they're
race.
just normal powered. They're not normal humans.
yeah.
And as much as I think everybody in the Power Ranger fan verse will disagree with me. my favorite villain is Divatox.
You're right, I do disagree with you.
Yeah, I know everyone disagrees with me, but it's just for me, she was the most entertaining. And I'll mind you, it's only Hillary. It was not Carol. It was only her as Hillary.
No,
Fair
it was
enough.
Hillary.
If that's what you want as a main villain because she's like more memorable because of how over the top she is, more power to you. I understand your logic there.
I loved her personality. I loved everything. It was just campy enough at the time,
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
She's getting beat at every turn, but then also she was she beat the Rangers.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
as much as that killed
Alright.
everybody inside.
Alright,
Yeah,
so-
episode 1 of His Face when she threw that shade to Rita when she was like, "Oh, blah," and she goes, "Oh, you didn't hear it? I beat the Rangers." And Rita was like, "Oh, those are my favorite things. Those are my favorite things ever." I was like, "Oh, that's right, Rita, eat it." Like, dude,
All right, Jay.
like
I know. I
deep
get you. I see your passion, but we gotta move on.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So Gino,
that was
who's
my
your
top
favorite?
three.
Gino, who's your
That was my
favorite
top
villain?
Wait, hold on. Do you like Divatox or do you like Divatox's cleavage?
No,
No, he said it was just about her
Cleveland
being
was
over
only
the
in the
top.
movie, and the movie was like the worst part of the, like
Yeah.
it's just her character.
All right. So Gino, who's your favorite villain?
I'm subjective because I'm good friends with one of them, so I'm gonna say Rita.
Rita.
Yeah, I kind of expected that, but
Yeah.
He's like, just in case Carla ever sees this,
But
let me make sure I say that out.
anyway, but I'm gonna say another one that I haven't heard anybody talk about is Mesagog.
yeah,
Brandon did bring
Brandon
him up a minute
mentioned
ago.
him a little bit ago, but yeah, we really haven't talked about Dino Thunder that much. Mesagog was a really good villain, definitely.
I liked him
Absolutely.
because this is why I like Trent a lot because I can relate a lot with Trent's character because Trent was like really close with his dad. So he was like between a rock and a hard place, keeping his secret. And the fact that Trent was an artist like me, like there's a lot. That's why I love Trent a lot.
He's my favorite.
Yeah, that's another
And the
thing we're
fact
gonna
that-
have to do an episode on is Sixth Rangers.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
But Mesagog, I thought he was like his like the way he was like sinister, like he's like, I will have to make the Rangers disappear. Like he would just like be really like
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
don't
he
know.
was an intimidating
So-
villain and an enormous upgrade from Lothor.
yeah, just to talk about that real quick. Lothor was not a good villain.
No, I think everyone can agree that he was not a good villain at all.
But
No.
now, who else here has seen Hurricaneger? I've seen most of Hurricaneger.
I haven't seen it. No.
Jay, I'm assuming you haven't seen it.
There's only two.
No.
All right.
I
Anyway,
Sentai
so
DVDs from Shout Factory.
or what's it called? Not Pluto. Tubi.
What?
It's
Tubi,
on.
yeah.
It's on Tubi.
It's on Tubi. Yeah, I've been watching some stuff on Tubi lately, actually.
All right, but
That's how I'm
anyway,
getting caught up with some.
most of the villains from Hurricaneger end up transferring over to Ninja Storm, except for Lothor. He's the only American one, right? They
Yeah.
replaced
What was
the
he
weird-
American? I
They
didn't know that. I didn't know
replaced
he was
that
of
weird
American
bug
race.
thing.
He was a really weird villain because it's initially a very Asian themed series, and it's ninjas and everything, and he talks with a southern accent.
Oh, the accents though. I mean, like,
He kind of reminds me of Ivan News.
wasn't wasn't Deviat Scottish, or like who is Scottish? Who is heavy Scottish?
That was Clank from the Machine Empire.
Thank you. Yeah, I was like, I remember somebody was heavy Scottish for no reason.
it's just like why does he? Because he was raised in the ninja school and everything. Why does he talk like that?
Yeah,
Because New Zealand actors, and a lot of actors, especially in Ninja Storm, sometimes their accents would slip.
I mean,
Let's get going, guys.
just on Ninja Storm as a series, Ninja Storm is pretty good. It was a pretty good follow-up to
I like
Lothor's.
Ninja Storm a lot, actually.
It's just Lothor is the
One of my
worst part of it.
Oh yeah, Low Force.
Yeah, for me, Ninja Storm is a lot like Lightspeed. When it's good, it's really good. But when it's bad, it's just horrendous.
Well,
like I
even-
said,
Yeah.
I mean,
like I said, Lothor for me just is a terrible villain. He's too goofy. He doesn't really seem like he's a master
He
planner.
could, and it's sad
Stuff
because
like
he could
that.
have been really good. He could
He
have been
could
like
have.
a Lord Zed type of.
I
villain.
mean, when it comes,
Mhm.
I thought I heard another phone ringing again. I think I might be hearing things. My my phone is right next to me and it's on silent, so I'm always looking at the phone and it's an iPhone, so it's the screen keeps turning on with all the notifications, but it's on silent. So I was like, how is my phone ringing when it's on silent? But I realized I think it's coming from downstairs.
even even the crossover with Ninja Storm and Dino Thunder was amazing. When they went into Dino Thunder, it was an awesome crossover.
That's
I
my
do
opinion.
like that team up. I will admit, I do like that team up.
All right.
And to piggyback off of Gino, what he was saying about Mesagog as a villain, I think the fact that he's much like his son, Trent, they're both tortured characters. Like, there's half of their personality that wants to be good, the other half is trying to take over and destroy everything.
Yeah.
Kind of like, almost like an Eddie Brock Venom sort of relationship.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
And it's interesting because then they take the White Ranger. I thought this was cool. They took the White Ranger power and it was the evil part, and they just made it a separate entity, and then they're fighting over control. Trent and his like dark self.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was like, it was a really cool. That's why I like Dino Thunder so much.
Yeah,
It's like
Dino
that
Thunder's one of the
storyline.
best, definitely.
So good.
Speaking of Dino Thunder and the Ranger fighting himself, I really liked that was it Dino Thunder where Tommy had to fight his other selves?
Yeah, that was the Fighting
Yes.
Spirit.
Fighting Spirit. It's probably the most well-known episode from the season, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, it's an iconic episode. It really is. But Dino Thunder is this as a series. Dino Thunder is another topic entirely. But let's move on. Brandon, who's your favorite
I just want to say
villain?
one last thing.
Okay,
One last thing.
go ahead, John. Go ahead,
Before
Gina.
we move on to Brandon, like what Jay was saying with teams, I wanted to finish off what I was going to talk about team wise. I would say, I told Anthony this. My favorite team is Mystic Force, which is not a memorable team that much, but I love it.
You're talking about the villains.
Zone?
You're talking about a villain team.
No, with Ranger Team.
Oh,
Oh, well,
Because how you were talking about teams.
no,
well, he was
yeah.
talking
No,
about
he was
villain
talking
team.
about like the villain
Yeah, I was
faction.
talking about villain team. Yeah, I said that I didn't really have. Yeah, like my third, like my first place was TV Talks. My second place was Zed, and my third place was just a collective of the whole Lost Galaxy villain.
Oh, okay. With the Lost Galaxy team.
Yeah, I thought the Lost Galaxy villain team.
Well, even the villain team, I thought was good because they had the terrors. It was like a demons
Yeah, and
kind of thing.
recently, Anthony sent over the link for a review of the Sentai counterpart, Magi Ranger, to me, and
okay.
I watched it at work on my break, and from what I saw, it's pretty much very similar.
Yeah,
What-
it
Oh, yeah.
really is.
Magi Ranger had a lot of similarities to Mystic Force, or rather the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So Brandon, your favorite
Now,
villain?
Brandon.
Zenaku from Wild Force.
Ah, okay.
He was like a wolf demon thing who became who possessed a mask that Merrick the Silver Ranger wore, causing Merrick the the Lunar Wolf Ranger to become possessed by Zenaku.
But Zenaku wasn't like the main guy in charge. Like, do you have a favorite main villain over him?
Mine's either Mesagog or Turkina.
I think those are acceptable answers.
Yeah.
Good. Chikane was good. I can't get over the armor change. Never coming back. I'll never be okay with that.
Yeah.
You lost the budget? What'd you do? Why do that to us? That was the coolest thing I've ever seen at the time.
Now, let us move on to a more in-depth topic.
Wait, real quick, no one's favorite villain was Ivanus? What's happened here?
Because if you lose, you lose.
All right. Let's move on to a more
The boogeyman is back.
Let's move on to a more in-depth topic. The most and least evil villains. Like, and what I mean by that, for the audience, is in terms of who did the best job of actually battling the Power Rangers, and who did the worst job.
Because you can't just go on evil, not given a good number of the best villains had turned to the good, so you can't just go off of evil.
Okay, with that,
so
with that logic, I'll have to say Lothar.
Yeah, Lothar was not very good at his job. I would say he's definitely one of the lower tier villains. In terms of good villains that like accomplish their goal, right away my mind of course goes to Astronema and Venjix, because at the very beginning of the series of RPM, Venjix had taken over pretty much 99% of the world, and now he's just trying to take out the last resistance left, and he almost does,
Almost.
And worst part is that he was made by us. It's not an alien or like some dark being of some sort, like from a different dimension or anything like that. No, he's a human-made invention that, because we didn't take precautions to keep him under control, or rather, Dr. K didn't take the precautions and install firewalls and stuff like that to keep him from spreading all over the world. Yeah, it ended up pretty bad for that world. What was that, Brandon?
He said Venjix is COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Venjix is cool.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying that, making that joke and everything just because of the virus and shit.
that's funny.
Now I know Samurai started a whole new era of Power Rangers and everything, but their villains I don't think get talked about enough.
Samurai was like half of it was movies.
Well, I don't know.
There
Some
were
of
a
their
lot of
things were definitely
specials.
movies. Like the Clash of the Red Rangers thing, that was definitely based off of a movie for Shinkenger. Their Halloween episode was based off of a movie. Um, well, one of their Halloween episodes. I think it was for Super Samurai, because I think regular Super Samurai Halloween episode, like many Neo Saban eras, like episodes when it's about Halloween or Christmas, they end up being clip show episodes, which I freaking hate.
Yeah.
In terms of Samurai's villains, I don't buy into Xandrid. He's basically like Samurai and Megaforce, especially, try way too hard to be like Mighty Morphin, and they are trying to do it in the worst ways possible. You know, like several puns within like 5 minutes, or the main villain has a headache, or I don't know, trying to make the characters of certain Ranger teams like Rangers of the past, like Noah's definitely trying to be like Billy, or Jake is trying to be too much like Zach and stuff. And so in terms of Samurai villains, like which ones are good, which ones are bad, I only really like two, and that's Dayu and Decker. Just because their tragic backstory makes them more interesting than anyone else on that show.
Yeah, Decker is really cool. Now, when it comes to actually accomplishing their goal, I kind of, actually, this is one where I'm gonna ask the crowd, how does what's his face Venjix Reboot? How does Venjix Reboot do in Beast Morphers?
So Evox. Evox is yes. So Evox is an interesting villain. Although it is a little bit weird that for most of season 2 he does have his physical body and everything like that. And he does have that tendency to be, like most villains in Power Rangers shows, like when they don't accomplish their goal, they go no, or curses and stuff like that. They blame their underlings. To be fair, most of the time, Evox doesn't do a lot of stuff on his own. He just sends his cronies to do his work, and they're bad at doing their job. Whenever he steps in, does tend to get the job done.
All right. So now, when it comes to who I think did a really good job, I really have to go back to the obvious, Astronema. I feel like we could almost call this the Astronema episode. Because we're really talking a lot about her. She did really well. A lot of the villains that she sicked on the Rangers end up doing at least a decent job of their job. And then
actually, you know what? I think I just gotta chime in here as an honorable mention of a villain that I don't think got a lot of attention, and oddly enough, he comes from Turbo. Anyone here remember General Havoc?
Yeah. Yep.
vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think General Havoc was a much better villain than Divatox, because he was like that. Like I said, I like a cold, calculating villain, and he was smart. He definitely got the job done. When he failed, he didn't like scream or blame others for his problems. He just says he'll come back with another Metallosaurus even stronger than the last one and stuff like that. He just seemed so menacing, and unfortunately, he didn't get enough attention because, limited on Sentai footage. I get that. So.
Yeah. But I mean, just the goons screwed things up for her a lot. Divatox rarely had a bad plan, though. Like she ended up succeeding in killing the Rangers, and he never went out and fought her own battles mostly at all. She 9 times out of 10, like the plan she had, you're like, oh yeah, it's good. Like it was good. It's just her goons didn't pull it off. I mean, when she went and like stole the cars and stole their stuff, so you get home flying car with that fire spawning guy, and like there's a lot of stuff that she did where I was like, I was very surprised with how goofy her character and everything else was, how much she was actually able to accomplish compared to other villains.
Mm-hmm. Because you agree with that.
So with how over the top she is, with how ridiculous you'd be like, almost dropped that down the stairs. Was it loud and horrible?
But
Sorry to step on your toes there, Trevor. Go on with what you were saying.
To go on a little bit of Gino's train of thought with Mystic Force, I really like Korag.
Yes. Very, very complex. Very well done villain, I think.
A new topic of a separate topic of evil Power Rangers.
Well, I
think
he's
Evil Rangers, weren't we?
yeah. That's gonna be
We'll
next
see.
episode.
Yeah.
But technically I guess you could say he's a ranger. He's
more like I want to
They
compare
call
him
them,
to
like-
someone like Magna Defender or Ninjor. They're not technically Rangers, but they are Ranger allies.
Or
They
even
do help Rangers.
Dashi.
Daishi.
They're like warriors. They call them like Wolf Warrior or Lion, Black Lion Warrior.
Well, like Blue Centurion was just a helper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, so technically we could have left Korag to that second group, but I don't know. He appeared. The evil range. When it comes to the evil rangers, this is all I'll say about evil rangers in this episode. If you want to hear more about evil rangers, you'll have to wait till the next episode. But what I'll say about evil rangers is a lot of them, they have their own specific episodes, their own specific saga within the season. Whereas Korag, you see him a lot.
He's dragged on like it's throughout the series. Yeah.
Yeah, and he only realizes he's good like near the end.
In the last 10 episodes or so.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really put him in that category.
I mean, that's also the case. There's a number of 6 Rangers or other Rangers that came in first on Evils. Tommy was evil first. Kat was evil first. Ryan was evil first. There's a lot of Rangers that came in that were first evil. Usually didn't take all season, but
but as Brandon said in the chat, when we say evil rangers, we mean like the Psycho Rangers. They're purely evil rangers.
Yeah.
Ones that don't get redeemed.
So as I said, that you want to hear more about evil rangers, you'll have to wait till the next episode for that.
We can almost make a list. This way we talk about them without going off topic. We can
definitely,
because of it gets real touchy. I know.
Definitely. I'll definitely do that with you guys on the chat. But now to finish things off, and this will be a conversation for, I guess, Jay, if you want to chime in at some point. But PR villains versus Sentai villains.
Oh boy, who else besides me can really talk about this?
Yeah,
I can tell you what I like, but
there's a lot of good comparisons to make between the two. Because a lot of times, if you have a comedic Power Ranger villain, a lot of times they tend to be more menacing and fierce in Sentai.
No,
who specifically was American? Like, who huge was only American? Like, obviously there wasn't like a Japanese.
Zed's only American.
Zed is only American. Master Org is only American.
Divatox is original concept.
Divatox.
Rancid is only original.
I
was
believe
Astronema?
I believe
was
Astronema.
Right?
Astronema was original. There was a female villain in Mega Ranger, but she didn't look anything like Astronema.
Was Dark Spectre in the
Divatox,
space counterpart?
Dark Spectre's American.
Dark Spectre
It-
was not in Car Ranger or Mega Ranger. That was
really,
an
I didn't
original
know that.
costume
Okay.
for the
Yeah,
movie.
Dark
Yeah.
Spectre.
And I guess
um,
because they didn't have anything else in mind for Dark Spectre, they reused his costume for In Space and said he's no longer Malagor, he's Dark Spectre.
Oh yeah.
I
Which,
always thought that was weird as a kid.
I
Yeah, I thought that was strange
because
too.
Jim even talks the line, "Hey, you look like my ex-husband or like my old fiance."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gave her that line.
Remember
Like,
me? You remind me so much of my ex-fiance.
Like, that was our theory because that was their quick. Like, how do we explain this? Like, just throw that in there. Like, that was it.
Great, Jay. Yeah, that
Yeah.
would have been amazing.
like, but
Really
when it
tongue in cheek. I
when it
love
comes,
that.
oh, and we were talking about before Sledge. Sledge is American.
But
Mesogog.
Okay.
Yes,
What
yes,
about
he was.
Lothar? Was Lothar American?
Yeah, Lothar
Yes,
is
he was.
American. We mentioned that before. In Hurricaneger, the
Grum.
main villain is a weird half bug thing.
Grum,
Really?
Yeah, he's like a
Well,
talking
that
bug.
makes sense because of the bug costumes. That makes sense because of the bug costumes with the girls.
Mm-hmm.
They have
Yeah.
those bug costumes. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah. So if you want a like a night and day comparison of what like a Sentai villain and their Power Rangers counterpart villain is, I think an easy one everyone can go to immediately is friggin' Rita Repulsa and Bondora. Like I said,
oh,
Rita
definitely. I was
Repulsa,
about to
very
mention that.
one-dimensional.
You
You know, she
read
just
my
wants
mind.
to take over.
You read my mind, Anthony. Bandora. I'm actually watching Jew Ranger on Verve at the moment. I just got to the Burai episodes.
Oh, those are beautiful.
They are.
It's like the
They're-
best part of the friggin' show.
They really are. And Bandora and the whole dark saber and everything, that it's great.
Yeah, so the Sword of Darkness is known as the Hellfried Sword in Zyuranger, and she lies to Barai, the Dragon Ranger of that show, saying that there's the sixth legendary weapon out there. Like all the Zyurangers, you know, the Power Sword, Power Daggers, etc. Those are all called the legendary weapons in the Sentai. And this is supposedly Barai's sixth weapon. What she doesn't tell him is that the person who uses this sword, it's a cursed weapon. Whoever uses this sword ends up getting driven mad. And Barai's already a warrior who is pissed off because, like, so backstory time. So Geki is supposed to be the prince of the Yamato tribe from millions and millions of years ago. However, he finds out he's actually the son of the Black Knight from that tribe, and Barai is his older brother. But like not long after the Yamato tribe king adopted Geki, there was a revolt in the kingdom. The Black Knight lost his life and everything, and he told Barai to avenge him and stuff like that. By the way, Barai was only 8 years old here at the time, and he, you know, swore vengeance on his father. The thing is, too, he was also trying to become a Zyuranger. Somehow, he became one. But by the time he did, everyone had beat Bondora and gone home. So he was even more pissed off. So put that all together and then give him a sword that drives him insane. It's just a recipe for disaster. You're basically just putting fuel on the fire. And getting to villains, though, straight up villains, Bondora and Rita. So Rita is just very one-dimensional. You know, she just wants to take over the world just because she feels like it. Bondora is out to annihilate the entire species of dinosaurs because her son was killed by a dinosaur, just because the little prick was someone who liked to bust open dinosaur eggs. So
Yeah.
Mama Dinosaur one day gets to him, and he falls off a cliff and dies. So Bondora makes a deal with the devil, literally, and says, like, give me the power to wipe out the dinosaurs. She does, except for the 5 guardian beasts. And they seal her away. She swears vengeance that she will return and annihilate them and everyone else on the earth and, you know, rule over it. So, like, she has motivation. She lost her son, and nothing else matters to her anymore now that her son is gone.
Like when you first meet Magnum Defender.
Yeah. Not too far off from Magna Defender. At least, you know, he tries to be good and stuff like that. It's just
Yeah,
he's
but-
more of a means to an end sort of guy.
He still was
Yeah.
like the
More gray
entire-
area.
Like, he was
Yeah.
about to kill all those people to try
And,
and take vengeance. Though.
And again, this is me being biased. I was also watching Go-Go 5, Lightspeed's counterpart, and there are a lot of one-off villains in Go-Go 5 that never made it to Lightspeed.
Oh yeah, I mean Go-Go 5, like Sentai tends to have about 50 episodes per season. Power Rangers tends to have 40, so obviously some are gonna get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. Like, and there's one stretch of episodes, and I mentioned this in the Lightspeed Go-Go 5 Ginga Man Lost Galaxy episode. You guys remember that moment where Carter goes up to one of the feather villains with both the V-Lancer and the Lifebird and pulls the triggers?
Yep.
That moment is in Go-Go 5 as well. And it's totally different.
Correction, it's the Lifebird in Go-Go 5 and the Rescue Bird in
Rescue
Lightspeed
Bird,
Rescue.
Lifebird.
Please continue, sorry.
That moment, it's very similar in Go-Go 5, but it has a completely different vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And
As someone who's seen Go-Go 5 entirely, he's right.
Like 5, how like the music is changed to where they like have like a totally different feeling for the scene, or like or it's a different context, or like what is?
Yeah, what's
like,
different?
Because they made that real intense in Lightspeed.
Yeah.
Like they made it dramatic and intense.
Yeah,
it's
but
hard
they
for
make
me.
it really look like...
I was gonna say, Anthony, you can explain this better than me.
So, if I remember correctly, in Go-Go 5, in that scene, they really do make it look like they harbor on the fact that Matoy, aka Go Red, in that series, he could literally be dead. And when he finally does come back, it's a tearful, like, reunion and stuff like that. They really do make it look like the guy didn't survive. And it's even more dramatic when you consider that the Go-Go 5 team, they're all siblings. So, and Matoy is the oldest of them. So, it literally goes from like red, blue, green, yellow, and pink. That's oldest to youngest I just listed right there. And their father is, their mentor, just like, Captain Mitchell was Dana's father and stuff like that. But the whole team is a family, and the villains are actually a family.
Mm-hmm.
That's completely insane.
Yeah,
That's
and
the exact
those
of what the show is.
Those exploding, I don't remember their names, but those exploding feather villains in Go-Go 5, it's the whole vibe of that series of episodes is amplified in Go-Go 5. Whereas in Lightspeed, they find these exploding feathers all over the place. Ryan sees the kid and saves the kid.
Yep.
Obviously, that scene is American only. In Go-Go 5, they go to the Go-Go 5 Senshi Rangers, whatever you want to call them. They have some relationship with this baby, and they go to visit this little kid, and this little kid finds this feather. It flows in through the window. So he's really interested in this feather. He's holding it up to the light and everything, and he's enjoying it. And even the Go-Go 5 Rangers, they're holding up this feather, and they're like, "Oh, a feather." And then when they later on, when they realize these feathers are dangerous and they explode, they basically have a what's the word I'm looking for? A mad dash to go back to this baby's apartment to save this mother. To save this mother and her kid from this dangerous exploding feather. And it's like just in the nick of time that Mondo, the Go-Go 5's father. Mondo gets to the apartment and saves the mother and child before the whole building just goes kaboom.
Yeah, totally.
So
Yeah, Sentai doesn't pull a lot of punches like that.
So
I
the
didn't
stakes are a lot higher.
Were there any other sibling teams that were Rangers or Ranger teams that were siblings?
Actually, yes.
Magi Ranger.
The Magi Ranger team. Yeah, they're all siblings, and a team that was never brought here to America was Five Man. Those are siblings as well.
Oh,
Is that
I wasn't aware of that because I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen Five Man either, and I've heard it's not the best Sentai series, but it's one of the Sentai seasons that weren't adapted because it was right before Zhu. So
I find it super interesting, given that it's the exact opposite of what the American version did with the team. Given this is the first time in the American show that none of the Rangers knew each other at all. Like they were all strangers brought together. In every season prior, at least one or two of them knew each other first. You know,
True.
This is the first time that they were all complete strangers. You know, with the exception of Ryan, Dana, and the captain. You know, which you didn't even know about Ryan until later. But to hear that, you know, it's the first time they're all strangers and their counterpart is actually all siblings is hilarious to me. I was like, whoa! Like they went the complete opposite way with it. Like, what do we do with the American version? Like, well, not that storyline. Let's do actually that.
Yeah, it's actually pretty funny. It's actually pretty funny. In Go-Go 5, all of them, even though they're all living their own separate lives, all of them in some form or another are involved, like for their jobs, they're involved with rescue. You know, Matoi and Nagare, they're firefighters, both of them. Sho, Go Green, he's a pilot that helps, you know, put out fires and everything through like helicopters or some other equipment and stuff like that. Daimon is a cop, and what'd you call it? And what's her name? Matsuri, I think her name is?
I think so, Matsuri, yeah.
She's a paramedic just like Dana is.
Nice.
And then their father, mind you, like he hasn't seen them in like 20 years. Like they thought he was dead or like abandoned them. Matoi has basically been raising his siblings for the last 10 or 15 years and stuff like that. And he comes out of nowhere and tells them that it's like, listen, very soon the world will be invaded because the planets are going to align in an X formation called the Grand Cross, and demons basically invade the Earth. We got to stop them from doing this. Oh, by the way, I fired you from all of your jobs, so you've had time to do this.
Oh!
Yeah.
That's like amazing, but like totally messed up.
I mean, just a small tangent. When it comes to morphing sequences, again, I'm biased. Lightspeed is at the #1 spot for me. Lightspeed, rescue! It's the best.
They morph through the picture frame of their own color and it paints onto them.
Yeah.
It's a bit different in Go-Go 5.
And Go-Go 5, while they do that thing.
They do the dance. They do the same sequence and everything. They say basically suit up or jukso, and they open it up
or
press
the morphing sequence or the change sequence. I don't know. It just, again, like most of the show, it has a completely different vibe, and I don't necessarily like it.
That was one of the only
I had a hard time watching Go-Go 5 because I love Lightspeed and Go-Go 5 felt too different.
But that's enough of a tangent. When it comes to other Sentai villains that are different from their American counterparts, Dino Charge and Koryuger. The Koryuger villains, I don't remember what they're called.
I have no idea.
I don't remember what they're called, but they are badass.
Like the physical embodiment of emotions, so it was basically inside out.
I don't remember what they're
Yeah.
called. I don't remember what,
I have
what they're
no
called,
idea.
but I'll look
I
up.
know very little
The
about
depots.
Korea. I can't help you.
Oh.
He's like, I remember.
I'll look it up, and I will put it in the video at this point as a title card,
I think it was the depot.
something like that. But the villains in Koryuger, as Brandon said, they're like the physical embodiment of different emotions. There's one for anger, there's one for love and happiness, there's one
right.
for excitement.
That's cool.
Yeah, the depot.
Hence the Inside Out joke. I get it. Okay.
And their leader is like some sort of lord or king with like 3 spikes on his helmet and a really
that's
menacing
cool.
mask. And
That's cool.
He
Like
does
the
make an appearance in Dino Charge, if I remember correctly. Well, Supercharge anyway.
All right, well, I'll have
cool.
to watch it somehow, because obviously I can't do it.
Your
on
time
Netflix.
is running short.
Yeah, I was gonna
Time is
say.
running short. Netflix takes it all away January 31st.
You
Yeah.
gotta-
That's why people should have their seasons on DVD.
Which I do. I'm good.
Yeah, I know
just-
you
I
do
know
it.
a lot of our
We know
friends
you're
aren't.
good. We know you're good. People like us are watching the whole show on 1.5 speed on Netflix going, I gotta get through this. I gotta get through this.
See, I've been doing little by little because Anthony, I've been doing little by little because I knew this was going to happen. And I already had some of my favorites originally before. And then I was like, well, I know it's eventually going to happen. So I've been trying to.
Yeah. One thing that definitely helped me, as rare as it is to get nowadays, especially secondhand, but I got the Legacy Collection, all the first 20 seasons in that Red Ranger helmet.
Oh.
It's one of my favorite things in my collection.
When I saw
but,
that,
it was
I
600
saw that when I was younger, and I really wanted it.
I saved up money and I got my mom's permission back at the time, and this was back before I started making purchases on my own. I thought I needed my mom's permission for everything back then when I was 20 years old even. But regardless, I saved up the money. I transferred my from my savings account to my checking account. It was $650, but totally freaking worth it because now most of those are going away. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
only
I
2,000
thought,
were ever made.
Are you getting it signed at all?
I
Did you
recently
start getting it signed?
I recently
I know
saw
some
a thing
people
on a
sign-
box
sign
set.
it.
I
You
had
should
thought
probably-
about getting mine signed, but it's just
You should
it's so
get some
big
of
and
the- some of-
bulky. I wouldn't want to carry that around like on a plane and stuff like that. And
Take the DVDs out.
Take it to.
Well, sometimes they come to like Philly and other places. So
And Ranger
That's fair.
Station, you kind of know a guy who started a Power Ranger convention.
yeah. But like
That's fair.
Philly, Jersey, Philly was getting a lot of different ranges recently that they were supposed to get last year.
Yeah, they got Carter from
SPD, Lightspeed. What? How many? There was like so many different types.
like 3 or 4.
Yeah,
All
they
right,
even
but
had Rose McGavin
McGowan.
the other day. About 2 years ago, a year and a half. Remember
all right,
that, Jay?
Now,
Yep.
now, one. Just to get back on topic.
What's up?
Go Busters. They're villains.
I haven't seen it.
They're.
And
I have. I don't remember a lot of it because it was literally the first series I watched after Gokaiger.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember a lot of it. I have to rewatch it. I still have the files on Plex. I just gotta rewatch it. But Go Buster, from what as I said, I haven't seen Beast Morphers yet. But from what I've seen, Go Busters and Beast Morphers are pretty similar. They have that same type. They have that same type of computerized future
Yeah, Brandon
vibe.
told me that. Brandon told me that it had like that same type of energy, rare energy type of thing that they were trying to get.
Yeah, it's called
Almost-
Enetron in Go Busters. Now that I remember, I just remember that because I would listen to the first theme song over and over again. Go Busters has a really good song.
It
I gotta
definitely
It was
does.
my
Cool.
ringtone in 2011.
Yeah.
But their villains are they're very similar to Beast Morphers from what I've seen of Beast Morphers, but the main villain in Go Busters is called the Messiah, and he's
Wow.
I was thinking the same thing. Wow.
That's bold.
yeah he's basically the leader of this other negative energy dimension. That's the best way I can describe it. And
Okay.
the way he makes his minion his smaller villains, his one episode villains, is he literally
Monsters.
he literally takes over an inanimate object with some type of electronic inanimate object with the virus and literally transforms it into the monster of the week.
Like
Is
Machine
the-
Empire.
Yeah, sort of.
Dead.
The whole Goldar episode, that's in it too, right? Like that they brought back him.
Yeah, that was
that-
a crossover.
That was the Dino Ranger team up movie. It was a movie in Japan. It was just like in America.
Yeah, it was a Kyoryuger. Yeah, it was Kyoryuger, Zyuranger, and Abaranger primarily. Yes.
It starts off with the Go Busters going after some sort of truck, and from there they meet the Kyoryugers, and then somehow I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but I have seen it. Then somehow they meet Geki from the Jew Rangers, and it's complicated, but it's a really good film if you can find it. It's available on TV Nihon, I believe.
The fan sub will never die.
Indeed. But yeah, Go Busters, their villains were very similar to Beast Morphers, and we'll have to see what happens with Dino Fury. I haven't seen Ryu Soldier, so I couldn't tell you what Ryu Soldier's villains are like.
There's like the whole Ranger.
But I've seen some clips of the latest Sentai Kira Major, and their villains are just plain old strange. They're like they're like after their magic, and it's just weird.
That's kind of like the pot calling the kettle black. I mean, weird is kind of what Japan specializes in.
Yeah, and seeing that some people in Japan are married to mannequins and dolls.
You know,
Yeah.
some people want to
All
Let's not
right.
get into that.
So we'll leave it on that note.
Okay.
So all right. So actually, let's leave it on a better note than that. So
Yeah, there we go.
final thoughts on the villains of Power Rangers as a whole.
So a good villain definitely helps the story and stuff like that.
Oh,
like,
definitely, of course.
It's kind of makes it more interesting, honestly. Like heroes, as much as I love heroes, they're very straight and to the point and stuff like that. Villains
Except
can
when
be a
you
lot
get
more
into the whole
complex.
anti-hero territory.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Like what's his name? Eric from Time Force.
Oh, I hated Eric for the longest freaking time.
He's more of an anti-hero, I guess you could call him.
Yeah, he becomes more of a hero in the three-parter for Time Force, definitely.
Yeah, but I mean, when it comes to Quantum Ranger / Time Fire, That is a really
Uh-huh.
cool looking suit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
That's,
definitely.
That's one of my overall impressions for for anyone watching who's not seen Power Rangers or is interested. If anybody is a fan of visual effects or like CGI versus practical effects, Power Rangers, one of the things that makes them stand out above everything else is like if most people know Power Rangers who don't know the Power Rangers, just go, oh, I see that, that's a Power Ranger. You guys only know the Ranger suits. The Ranger suits are nothing compared to the vast army that is every single over-the-top built costume by the most amazing costume makers I've ever seen in my entire life. Some of them aren't as good as others, but my God, the ones that are good are great. And there are times where they have entire armies. There's episodes of like, hey, bring out all the monsters, and it's completely different costumes. It's not like the putties. It's not like the Rangers. Like it is 100% over the top, beautifully designed, and there is what? There's hundreds of them. There's hundreds of them. Between how many seasons of Rangers there are, and every single time there's new villains, and every episode, there's a brand new villain that they have to beat and defeat, and it's one of the things that stands out the most about the series alone is the astonishing visual effects team behind the villains in that show. It is better than any other show I've ever seen. Their makeup artists may not be, when it comes to how they have this many ideas for villains, like the team behind that constantly have to come up with these names, constantly have to come up with these costumes, always have to do these things. And then often enough, which we've seen a couple times, they'll take two of the best villains they have in the show, they'll combine them and give you the coolest costume. They combined Eclipse with and you had that merge costume, the same thing with the season later on, they blend them together.
Yeah, and
That's
the
the
same,
thing.
the same thing with those exploding feathers villains in Lightspeed. They combined them at one point.
Exactly, that's what I was gonna say too. They did it in Lightspeed as well, and they look so cool. It's hands down my favorite thing about the villains as a whole when it comes to Power Rangers is that they beat every show.
Definitely. And
Every show.
And Jay, that's not just Power Rangers. You can say the same thing about a lot of Sentai.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm absolutely sure. That's what. Yeah, I mean it as a whole. Like I said, I haven't seen it, but I know a lot of the stuff gets crossed over. You said there was only a handful of villains that were American only, but man, it blows me away. That's part of why, like, even watching like newer episodes, every time a new villain comes on, I'm like, are you kidding me, guys? I'm like, this costume right now. I'm just like, oh, amazing work.
Yeah.
Overall, if in terms of villains, yeah, some are going to be worse than others, but I think Power Rangers villains, especially, they're more good than bad out there.
Oh, definitely.
Yep.
I mean, you got so many great villains over the years, and we've mentioned a lot of them in this episode. Mesogog, Lord Zed, even Rita was pretty good for what she was.
Astronomer, Trakina, Rancid,
Trakina, Diabolico, Trakina.
We didn't talk about Rito.
Kubo,
Oh yeah, Rito.
Earlier.
Yeah.
His aesthetic is amazing. He's not really he's not really the best villain, but my God, that costume. The bones are articulated in that thing.
Yep.
And it's little half and half. He's just this two-faced bone general, and it's incredible.
Yep.
And,
I'm hoping for a lightning figure.
And one thing that we really didn't mention all too much was if you have a bad villain in a series, a lot of the time it can really ruin the show.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
that's one thing I can really kind of respect Ninja Storm for, is while Lothar was not the best villain at all, they really compensated for him.
Like, it was mainly, I think, the Rangers I really liked. It's just some of the villains, like, I didn't like too much. Obviously, you know how much I hate Lothar. Chubo isn't much better. Zergane was definitely complex, and I think he should have been in charge, honestly. And what was the shark dude that Lothar was a rival with? Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name.
I knew his name was, but I forgot it.
Oh man, it's not Serrator. No, that's a completely different villain from a completely different season. Either way, Shark guy, who is basically Lothar's rival. Vexicus. That's what his name was.
Yeah.
Vexicus. He was a really cool villain. The girls, Capri and Mara, I could do without. But the Rangers themselves, especially the Thunder Rangers, were really enjoyable.
Yeah, and Green Samurai. That was probably one of the best parts of the series.
I always like to call those three Rangers the Ruby, Emerald, and Sapphire Rangers.
That's cool.
The villains often make up for a lot too. Like there's times where the show will, because it is a kids show, where the show you're like, oh, this is a little, you're like, thank God this is like the end of Lost Galaxy. Thank Christ the storyline was what it was, because the pirate morph suits of those guys were the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Like the fact that they just left a face on a morph suit and didn't even try, like just.
Yeah, and as we've mentioned previously, when it comes to Lost Galaxy, Ginga Man is completely different to Lost Galaxy, especially their villains.
Oh, entirely.
Especially their villains.
Oh yeah, like Captain Mutiny in Lost Galaxy. Yeah, that's the main villain for Ginga Man.
And I assume those stupid pirates aren't in the other one, or are they?
They are.
They are?
Yeah, the Swabbies, his foot soldiers, they do appear in Ginga Man primarily.
They were bad.
I mean, hey, Stingwingers weren't much better, so.
No, the Stingwingers they had the armor on the face. The Stingwingers were badass. Those Skags really had a morph suit face that was not touched. They literally bought morph suits and stuck them on them, and they had two big cartoon eyes. No, that was not okay. At least Stingwingers had crazy helmet that they like saw through just the things.
I love how you said that, Jay. That was not okay what they did.
It wasn't.
Jay's in red mode now.
All right.
It's okay.
And then I see these guys.
So, all right, Brandon, we haven't heard much from you when it comes to conclusions. What's your thoughts on villains of the Power Rangers series in general?
Power Rangers does not have the most complex villains compared to like Marvel and DC, but I think what I like about Power Rangers is they fight kaiju. Like, I like that. I like the villains more for like the kaiju and the mecha fights, but for the villains we get with actual story, there are some pretty cool ones.
Definitely. And
So
all right, so. As we said, the next episode will be on evil Rangers, such as the Psycho Rangers, the Dark Rangers from Season 2 of Mighty Morphin, stuff like that. So if you...
Will that include like Robot Rangers and Clone Rangers episodes, or no?
I think so.
We can mention
I
them.
think we can talk about the Cyber Rangers from Lightspeed
You
Rescue.
can definitely add that. All right. So if you want to see us talk about that, you'll have to subscribe, you'll have to like this video, and you'll have to hit that bell so you know when the video is posted. So with that, I'm Trevor. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. I'm either rstones1016 or gothicus1016. Anthony, where can people find you on the internet?
Mainly Facebook. I'm 411 Ranger fan on YouTube, but most places I go. And Discord I go by 411 Ranger fan as well. But yeah, I'm mainly just on Facebook, talking about life, watching shows, movies, and all that other stuff. Just find me under Anthony Giedman. That's GIEDMAN.
Jay, where can people find you? Yeah, you can find me. You can find me most places as J Num on Instagram. It's J_Num. On Facebook, it's J Num Espinosa. My face pops up right away. Just have a big beard in those pictures. I haven't changed it yet. But those about the two main things I use. I'm on YouTube, but not really for contact, just for stuff that I post. So it's Facebook and Instagram. Probably Instagram.
Gino?
J_Num.
you can find me on Facebook. You can also find the event that I'm working on with two other people. I'm co-promoting Ranger Station, which is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can look up that. Also, I go on Instagram. I'm Dark Prince 84, and again, that was Ranger Station. That's the name of the event. It's going to be first event coming to the Philadelphia area this summer, hopefully.
Yeah.
Everything's going on with the whole.
July
But
2024.
yeah.
All right, Brandon.
And on Instagram and through Ranger X and Lehigh Valley Power Rangers.
All right, so that's all of us from Super Sentai Power Hour, and enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.
May
May
the
the
power
power
protect you
protect
all.
you.